So I think we can start now. So let us start this course. This course is on, maybe let me share my screen first. Yeah, fine. We have this course, and the title of the course is Introduction to Semiconductors. I hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the course is all about the semiconductors. Now, this I think PDF mentioning the course syllabus and all, so that you can download from the institute's website also, or maybe I'll share this with you. Now, the reference books or maybe textbook that you would be referring for this course would be this book, that is B.G. Streetman and Banerjee S.K. The title of the book is Solid State Electronic Devices. So this book you can consider as a textbook, very good book. So you will use this book even in the next few semesters which are going to come, maybe in third year also, fourth year also. So it's a very good book by B.G. Streetman, Solid State Electronic Devices. So even I also have a personal copy of this book. Then you can also refer to this book by M.S. Tyagi, which is Introduction to Semiconductor Materials and Devices. Okay. Now let us discuss the course content. So as I said that this course is all about semiconductors. We will try to understand the types of semiconductors, their characteristics, and the carrier transport mechanism also, how the current is obtained from these semiconductors via the movement of either electrons or holes. So we'll discuss what are electrons and holes very soon. Now in unit 1, we will try to cover this atomic structure and statistical mechanics. So where we'll try to learn about this atomic structure, some quantum mechanics, Schrodinger wave equation, then maybe bonding of atoms, what is crystalline state, energy bands in solids, and also this we will understand. Then few things on energy band diagram or energy band model, then electrons and holes inside the energy band. So we'll talk about all this, Fermi level distribution. Okay. Then doping in semiconductors, and then what are heavily doped or lightly doped semiconductors. Then in unit 2, we'll talk about the carrier transport in semiconductors. Right. So carrier means either electron can be a carrier or a hole can be carrier. So what is hole and electron, we'll talk about them very soon. Then we'll talk about how these electrons or hole moves in the semiconductors via drift and diffusion mechanism. And then because of this movement through drift or diffusion, the drift and diffusion currents, so they can be obtained. So how they are obtained and what are they, so we'll talk about them. Then many other things, for example, generation and recombination. Okay. That is electrons recombine, that is electron and hole pair, so that can go away. Or maybe few more extra electrons can be generated in a semiconductor. So that phenomena is called generation. We'll talk about this also. Then unit 3, in the unit 3, we'll talk about how to utilize these semiconductors. So normally, silicon is used. It's the most popular semiconductor which is used for creating devices which are used in integrated circuits. So that silicon semiconductor or maybe some other semiconductor can be utilized for creating devices, for example, PN junctions, right, or diodes, what we call it simply. So we'll talk about how the PN junction is formed and what are the how the carrier transport happens in a PN junction, and we'll also try to find out how the current is obtained in a PN junction or a diode, right? Then we'll also talk about some other diode families, for example, Zener diode, tunnel diode, Schottky barrier diodes, PIN diode, so, and all these. So we'll talk about them also in brief. And then in the unit 4, we'll talk about another device. So this was one device, that is PN junction. Okay. So PN junction was one device, that is diode, and the other device is called a transistor. Right. So now there are two types of transistor. One is a bipolar junction transistor, and the other is a MOS field effect transistor, right? So in unit 4, we'll talk about bipolar junction transistor. We'll talk what is the structure, I mean, how it is created, principle of operation, how it operates, how the current comes out, right, and how it is used in the circuits. And then we'll also talk about the VI characteristics of a bipolar junction transistor. That is, when you apply voltage, how the current increases. So that pattern is called IV characteristics or current voltage characteristic. We understand how and what is the current voltage characteristics of a BJT. And then we also talk about, in brief, how to use this BJT or bipolar junction transistor as an amplifier. Right? So amplifier means you put in some low value of signal and you can amplify or obtain a larger output or larger value of that signal. So that is called amplification process. So this is possible by using any of the devices, either BJT or MOSFET. Right? So BJT as an amplifier, we'll study how it works. Then similarly, we'll also talk about this junction field effect transistor. Right? So field effect transistor, junction field effect transistor, and this MOSFET, that is metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. Right? So we'll talk about again the basic structure, how it operates. Okay? Then the IV characteristics, right? That is how the current changes when you apply voltage bias or voltage across the terminals of the MOSFET, how the current changes. Then we'll also talk about the capacitance versus voltage characteristics. So these MOSFETs can also be used as capacitors. Right? So we'll also talk about how the capacitance changes when you apply a bias or voltage around these MOSFETs. Right? So I think this is a basic course. We'll not talk in detail about these things, but yes, we'll try to cover. And if you have curiosity in learning or knowing something beyond the syllabus, we'll definitely teach you. Okay, but yes, this is a basic course, and a similar course you will find in either the second or third semester, so which will be based on semiconductor devices. Right? So again, same devices you will study in that course also in second or third semester. Okay, but yes, that will be a little bit advanced. So there you will be knowing how to model analytically, right, all these devices, how the current is modeled using mathematical equations. So that you will understand in the other course. But yes, this is a basic course since you are in second semester. So this is the basic course, that is introduction to semiconductors, or maybe introduction to semiconductor and devices also you can call, right? So yeah, so let us start from, in fact, we will be, in fact, you can use that book that I have told you. Okay. But yes, I will also encourage you to read from some other resources also, right? So for example, I would be referring these slides which are available on University of California, Berkeley, right? So University of California, Berkeley is, I think, among the top 3 institutions around the globe. So there also a similar course is being run, and the title of that course is Integrated Circuit Devices, right? So we'll try to match the standards around the globe or around the world. Okay, so we'll try to learn from these slides. In fact, these slides cover almost all aspects of our syllabus, right? So for example, semiconductor fundamentals, unit 1. Then PN junction diode is unit 2, PN junction and metal semiconductor. Then unit 3 is bipolar, and unit 4 is, I think, MOSFET or maybe MOS capacitor also. So all these things are covered. So you may use these slides also. In fact, we'll learn from these slides. Okay. So let us start the course. I hope my voice is audible to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in few slides, I think they have explained about the integrated circuit process. In fact, this process is not relevant to our first few slides are not relevant to our course. In fact, these things you will study in the later semesters, maybe in the third year or so. So we'll not go into this. But yes, let us talk about what is a IC, right? Integrated circuit. So we all are, I think, aware of an IC, integrated circuit. Is it so? So do you know what is an IC or integrated circuit? Nobody knows
So
integrated circuit.
just heard of it, sir.
Okay. So integrated circuit, for example, a microprocessor, right? And microprocessor is today in your mobiles also, in your laptops also, on your PCs also, right? So those microprocessors are basically integrated circuits, right? Similarly, a random access memory or RAM, so that you use in your mobile also and in your laptops and PC also. So that is also possible, and that is also actually an integrated circuit. Integrated means you integrate some of the devices, means join or combine some devices. Which devices? Like diodes, MOSFETs, BJTs, right? So you join all of them, or maybe only MOSFETs, to make some logic out of it, right? Or maybe a microprocessor, or maybe a random access memory, okay, or maybe even a hard disk, right? So all these are integrated circuits. Yeah, these are of course very big integrated circuits, okay? And these integrated circuits are made from, today they are made from MOSFETs, right? MOSFETs also and FinFETs also. So these are transistors basically, right? So here you might see MOSFET, metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor, or maybe a bipolar transistor, right? So both can be utilized. A bipolar transistor can also be utilized, and uh, yeah, so a bipolar transistor can also be utilized, and a MOSFET can also be utilized to make an integrated circuit, right? So integrated circuit, as I said, could be a microprocessor or a MUP, right? So MUP here stands for microprocessor, right? So devices are needed, right? So integrated circuits are created from devices, that is diodes, BJTs, and MOSFETs. Okay? So we need to understand what are these devices. So that is what this course is all about. Now these devices, that is bipolar transistor or maybe MOSFETs, they need some material, right? So the material that we need to create these devices are called semiconductors, right? And in fact, metals can also be used for connecting these devices or providing contacts to these devices, right? So semiconductors are the materials that would be used to uh, make these devices, which will be used eventually or ultimately in a integrated circuits, right? So that is why we want to understand the semiconductor fundamentals, right? So semiconductor fundamentals, that is why it is important, right? So, if I talk about a material, right? So a material could be either a conductor, right? So an example of a conductor could be, so conductor means, first of all, what is conductor? Conductor means any material which can conduct. What it can conduct? It can conduct electricity, right? So that is called conductor. So that is, if there is a material, let us say, so this is a material, let us say, you apply some, you send some current, or maybe some energy you send here, okay? And on the other end, so you should be able to retrieve the same amount of energy, or maybe lower or smaller amount of that energy, right? So conductor conducts energy, or if you apply a current or a bias across it, it will conduct that current, right? So current can come from this point, that is from this point to this point. So this is actually a conductor. So example of conductor could be, so any example of conductor?
Copper, aluminium, sir.
Iron, gold, silver.
Yeah, great, very good. So gold, silver, so all these could be conductor. In fact, iron can also be a conductor. Copper wires we have seen in our houses also, you might be using, right? Copper wires for wiring purpose, right? So all the cables, for example, a TV connection cable, or maybe a laptop charger cable, all these are wires, and these wires have copper wires, copper as a material. So that material is actually a good conductor of electricity, right? So copper is a good conductor of electricity, right? So that is actually a material. So good conductor means it has low resistivity. Yeah, so it resists less or low resistance, right? That is, if you apply energy E here, okay, if it is a low resistor material, so you will be able to see maybe 90% of E, right? So 90% of E may be available outside. Okay, so this is a good conductor. Okay, or maybe you can also find more than 95%, or maybe 80% of this energy can be retrieved at the other end, right? So this is a good conductor, right? Now what is a bad conductor? So bad conductor means it's an insulator, right? That is, you apply E over here and you get nothing outside here, right? So you apply E over here and you get nothing here outside. That is, it doesn't conduct. For example, wood, right? A piece of wood, you try to apply some energy here, you won't feel anything here. That energy will not be transmitted here also. At this point also, you will not feel anything, right? So that energy cannot be transmitted. So what could be that energy? Maybe you try to heat this wood, right? So you heat this wood, end of the wood, at this end, you will not feel anything here, here, or maybe here. These three ends will be cold. So this is a bad conductor, right? So you apply some electricity, it will not conduct. Right? So wood is a bad conductor. Similarly, there could be other bad conductors. For example, cotton, rubber. Okay, so all these are bad conductors, right? So material has, that means there are two materials we have discussed. One is conductor, and the other is insulator. That is, conductor is good conductor. That is metals, and insulators or bad conductors, right? For example, wood or maybe cotton or maybe a rubber. Okay. Now there is another class of material now. So this is number one, this is number two, and the third class is called semiconductor, right? So this is called semiconductor, third class. Okay. So there are three classes of materials. One is conductor, one is insulator, and the other one is, third one is semiconductor. So semiconductor here means, again, it is in between, that in between these two, conductor and insulator. So that is called actually semiconductor. So semiconductor means it will sometime conduct and sometime it will not conduct. So what time it will conduct? Let us say this is my semiconductor. So it will conduct sometime and it will not conduct sometime. So what are the times that it will conduct? Okay, I apply E over here, and it can conduct sometime and it cannot conduct sometime. So that is, again, we have to understand why it can conduct sometime and why it cannot conduct sometime. So that we will try to cover when we talk about the band gaps of the semiconductor, right? So we'll talk about the band gaps of the semiconductor, and then we'll talk about why this conducts and why this doesn't conduct, right? So when you apply some energy here, so at some point you will see when the energies are lower, so lower energy levels, it will not conduct. So when you apply a further high energy level or high energy, then it will conduct, right? So why it will conduct at high energy? So that is related to the band gap of the semiconductors, or maybe band gap of the materials, one would say. Maybe I'll see if I have a slide on band gap. No, I don't have yet, but yes, or maybe let us talk about the band gaps right now here itself. I'll take another screen. Let us say just a second, let me take one screen. Okay, let us take any this thing. Maybe let us try to understand here. Yeah, maybe here. Okay, so we have conductors. We say we had conductors. Okay. Then we had insulators. Insulators. So please remind me if I exceed the time. So your class is till I think 3:35. So please remind me 5 minutes before. Okay, so we have conductors, insulators, and the other one is third one is semiconductor. So this is what we discussed. Semiconductors. Okay. So conductors. So I said that, as I said that you apply any bias, it will conduct, right? So in fact, let us talk about the band gap also. So in conductor, we say that the band gap is negligible. Right? So band gap is negligible here means we have, let us say, conduction band and valence band. So they both overlap. Right? So let us say that this is my conduction band here, and this is my valence band. So they both overlap. Now, what are these conduction band and valence band? So this is also important to understand. So all the materials, in all the materials, we have, atoms, right? So and all those atoms are associated with electrons, right? So material is composed of atoms, and atoms have electrons in the outer shell, right? Now, so that means that in a material, any material that is conductor, insulator, or semiconductor, we have energy levels inside a material, right? So if I have a material here, let us say, so I have energy levels inside the material, right? So many energy levels are possible inside the material. Okay? Now, the valence band energy level, that is VB, right? So we say valence band energy level. So this is basically the energy level that represents the outermost orbital of any element, right? So for example, if I say silicon, so silicon has 4 valence electrons, right? So valence electrons means the outermost electron, that is electrons which are present in the outermost orbitals, right? So this is silicon. So obviously silicon has a nucleus, and then you have orbitals around this material, that is silicon atom, right? Now the outermost orbital, that is this one is the outermost orbital, it seems. So the outermost orbital, this corresponds to valence band. Okay? That is energy of this orbital, that is outermost orbital, is called valence band. So this is true for all materials, not just this one. Okay, so all materials, so I'll repeat once again, that is all materials. For example, this, all materials have energy levels, right? That is, materials have atoms, and atoms have electrons associated with it, right? So for example, silicon atom, it has 14 electrons. I mean, the atomic number is 14, right? So 1, 2 would come here, two electrons will be occupied here, then 8 here in this one, 1s, 2s, 2p, and this is 3s, 3p orbital, last one. So which will have 4 electrons in the outermost shell, right? Now all these orbitals, that is this one, or maybe this one, or maybe this one, so these are associated with the energy levels. So energy levels of what? Energy levels of these 2, 8, 4 electrons, right? So that is, inside a material, electrons have various energy levels, right? So in case of silicon, I have 3 orbitals, right? So the outermost orbital, that is this orbital, this is called valence band. So this is called valence band. So I'll write here valence band. So outermost orbital is called valence band, and outermost orbital's energy, so that is called valence band energy. So I'll say valence band energy. Okay. And these energy, I mean valence band energy and some other energies, so they are inside any semiconductor or any other material, right? So that is composed of energy levels. All metals or all semiconductors or all insulators, all material, in fact, we would say, have various energy levels. So these energy levels correspond to electron energies. Okay, and the outermost orbital, that is valence band, this one. So this corresponds to valence band energy. So if I try to draw the energy band diagram, right? So I'll be only concerned of two energy bands. One is valence band, so I'll simply represent by a straight line, and the other is conduction band. I'll say CB. Right. Now valence band we understood. What is valence band? So valence band is the energy level which corresponds to the outermost orbital, that is this orbital. Right. So this is valence band energy level. Right. Now what is conduction band? Okay. So conduction band energy is, that is, if I have an electron here, let us say sitting in the valence band, right? So valence band energy, electron, if it tries to go to the conduction band, okay, now the electron is present here. Now instead of this electron, since this electron goes away from valence band to conduction band, I have a vacancy created here. I don't have an electron here anymore, so I have a vacancy. I call it vacancy or a hole, because this electron which was in valence band, so this has moved away from this valence band to conduction band. Okay. So that means conduction band energy is the energy level which is acquired by an electron when it moves from valence band. Right. So whenever an electron moves from valence band, it will always go to the conduction band. So conduction band energy, that means level, is the energy level which is acquired by an electron when it moves from valence band to this energy level, which is called conduction band energy or conduction band. Now the question is why it will move, right? So why this electron will move from valence band to conduction band? So the answer to this would be, very straightforward answer would be, this moves because somebody tries to push it. So pushing in terms of energy, that is, if you try to apply some energy, let us say this is my material, let's say this is my semiconductor, right, or any other material. If I try to energize it, put some energy inside this semiconductor material or any other material, if I try to put extra energy, so this extra energy will be transferred to this electron, okay, which was sitting in the outermost orbital, that is valence band. Now this has become energized. So obviously if it has more energy, it will try to move. Okay, it will break, its position, and it will try to move to higher energy level, because now it has higher energy. It doesn't have this much energy. Okay? It has more energy, so it will move to higher energy level, right? So it moves from, let us say this is my valence band, so it moves to my conduction band here, because we have given extra energy to the material. So that extra energy transfers to the electron which was sitting here in the valence band, okay, and it moves to the conduction band now. Okay. Now in between the valence band and conduction band, the region which you are seeing, right? So there are no states. There is no electronic states can exist. That is, no electron can be present in this region. Right? Now this region is called, that means it is called a band gap or EG. Yeah, we represent it by EG. So this is called a band gap. That is, there cannot be any energy levels or energy states in between a valence band and a conduction band. So if there are no states, so obviously that means no electron can be present in this region. That is in the band gap. Right? So I'll write band gap over here so that you remember. So called band gap. So inside the band gap, there could be no electron present. Why no electron present? Because there are no electronic states, that is energy levels. They're not available here. Right? So between valence band and conduction band, we have band gap, right? So for example, let us say my valence band energy level is, if I say it is, let us say it's how much? Let us say 8 eV. Okay. And the conduction band energy level, obviously it will be high. So the conduction band energy is, let us say it is 13 eV. Okay. And somebody asked me, what is the band gap of my material? So I have a material where the valence band energy level is 8 eV and conduction band energy is 13 eV. Somebody asked me, what is the band gap? So band gap of my material is 13 minus 8. Right? So this Eg or band gap, so this is equal to 13 minus 8. Okay. So that is equal to how much? 5 eV. So 5 eV is the Eg or band gap of my material. Right? Okay. So we understood that the electron will move from valence band to conduction band because it has been provided some energy. Semiconductor is given energy, or a material has been given energy. Because of that energy, electron gets more energy, and it will obviously try to move to higher energy levels. It is not now 8 electron volts more energy, right? So it has more energy. That is how much? 13 eV, or maybe even more, right? So it may be either found here on the bottom of the conduction band, or maybe it can be found here also. If it has more energy, more than 13 eV, or maybe even more, so it can be found anywhere here. Let us say this is 20 eV, 20, or maybe let us say this is 15, right? So it can be found anywhere depending upon how much energy you provide to your semiconductor, right? Now let us come back again to this topic, that is conductor. Okay, conductor, insulator, and our semiconductor. So as I said that in conductors, the conduction band and valence band, so they both overlap. So if they both overlap, so just imagine what happens if this conduction band and valence band overlap. So that means there is no band gap, right? So that means Eg is how much? 0. Okay. Band gap is 0 in a conductor, okay, because my conduction band and valence band are overlapping. Okay. So that means I don't need extra energy. How much energy? That is this 5 eV. Okay. That is band gap energy. Right? So I don't need extra energy for my electron to move from valence band to conduction band. Okay. Now another important thing to notice here is when the electron moves from valence band to conduction band. Okay. So when it moves from valence band to conduction band, so it becomes free here, right? So this is called free electron. Free electron. So I'll write E minus, so that represents E electrons, right? So when it moves from a valence band to a conduction band, this electron becomes free electron, right? And it is very important for an electron to become free, otherwise there will be no conduction, that is no current you will see, right? So inside this semiconductor or maybe any material, I must have free electrons. If I don't have free electrons, if I try to apply any energy, right, so you will see that that energy doesn't comes out from this end, right? Or maybe if you apply heat this material, maybe let's say if you heat metal, right? So metal obviously gets warm. After some time it gets very hot. Okay. So that heating is not possible if this Eg, that is band gap, right? So this band gap is more, you need to apply more energy, E, right? How much more energy? Energy more than band gap. So energy more than band gap you have to apply, okay? Because if you don't apply energy more than band gap, then the electrons in the valence band, so they will not move to the conduction band and you will not have free electrons. Okay? So for conduction, you need free electrons. Okay? And free electrons can only be obtained if you apply energy greater than the band gap, right? So energy greater than the band gap. So if you apply this much energy, then only the valence band can move from, electrons in the valence band, so they can move to conduction band and become free. And when they become free, right, then you apply some more energy, so that extra energy will be directly transferred to the output, right? So after Eg, that is, let's say Eg plus 1 EV, if you are applying, right, so you will get 1 EV over here outside, right? Because before Eg it will not conduct. So if you apply Eg plus 11 EV, so it will give you full 11 EV outside, right? Not EV, 11, let's say some unit. Okay? So that means you need to have free electrons in the systems. Okay? Now, if I come back to the case of conductor, that is, for example, let us say metal, as I said, valence band and conduction band, they overlap so that the band gap is 0. So band gap is 0, so that means if I apply any bias, right, any energy, if I apply to this material, the same energy will come out because Eg is 0. So I don't need to apply E, E greater than Eg, right? Because here Eg is 0. So as soon as you apply anything, any energy, on the other end, you will see that energy comes out. So that is actually conductor, right? For example, wires. You apply, electricity, instantly you will see that the same amount of electricity or the current comes out, right? So that is actually a conductor. Now coming on to semiconductors, as we have discussed, semiconductors have band gaps. I mean, this is an example of, this one is an example of semiconductor, right? So semiconductor, I'll write here. So this is an example of semiconductor. So semiconductor always have band gap. Now semiconductor, so that means it will sometime conduct and sometime it will not conduct, as I said, right? Semiconductor means it will sometime conduct and it will sometime not conduct. So when this will not conduct, so when you are applying E less than Eg, that is band gap, it will not conduct, right? So if you are applying energy which is less than the band gap energy, it will not conduct. So when the semiconductor will conduct, so this will conduct only when you are applying energy which is, that is, energy is greater than the band gap energy, then only it will conduct, right? So that is the difference between a semiconductor and a conductor. Conductor will always conduct because no band gap. You apply anything, instantly it will conduct. Semiconductor, it will not conduct unless you apply E greater than Eg, band gap energy. It will wait for the time, right? So you apply E less than Eg for 5 minutes, it will not conduct for 5 minutes. 6th minute you applied more than Eg, at the 6th minute it will conduct, right? Semiconductors have this property. Similarly, now we have insulators, right? So insulators are another type of material where the band gap, this band gap, right? This band gap is very large, right? So very large band gap, maybe somewhere around 10 EV. Right? So these are called insulators. So I'll write conduction band again over here and valence band again over here. So between valence band and conduction band, the energy level, I mean, there is nothing existing, that is, no electron can exist, no energy level can exist. So that is why it is called a band gap. Now the band gap of an insulator is how much? It is of the order of 10 EV. It's very large, right? So I'll say it's large band gap. So because of this large band gap, it never conducts, right? So you apply any bias across an insulator material, right? So you apply any energy level, any energy at the insulator level, it will not conduct. 10 EV is a high energy, right? So you apply any energy here, it will not conduct. So that is called insulator. For example, wood and cotton, as I said, right? So they never conduct. You keep on applying energy, it will not conduct because the band gap is very high. So it cannot excite electrons from here to move to the conduction band. So there are no free electrons in the conduction band. Okay. So that is why it is called an insulator. Okay. However, semiconductor, the band gap is small. So for example, if I talk about silicon, so the band gap is somewhere around 1.1 EV. So that means in semiconductor, for example, silicon, if you apply energy which is greater than 1.1 eV, right, it will start conducting instantly. If you apply it instantly, it will instantly start connecting, right? So that means, that if you want to make a material conduct, apply energy which will overpass its band gap, right? So if you apply energy which is greater than band gap, then only the electrons in the valence band can move to the conduction band and can become free electrons. And if you have free electrons, then only conduction is possible. Right? So I think this would be clear. If you have any doubts, please ask. Is my voice audible to you?
एक्सक्यूज मी सर
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. Audible,
सर
sir.
जब जैसे किसी भी इलेक्ट्रॉन को आयोनाइजेशन एनर्जी देते हैं तो वो कंडक्शन बैंड में जाता है मटेरियल कोई छोड़ देता है
No. So if it leaves the material, so in fact, so then the amount of energy that would be required, so that would be equal to its work function, right? So work function is again a energy. We saw band gap energy, we saw valence bond energy, conduction band energy, then there is a work function. So work function energy is the total energy required by an electron to leave the conductor. So it doesn't leave the conductor currently. As I said that you have a conduction band minima or conduction band bottom lying over here. So that doesn't mean the semiconductor material ends over here itself. Right? The energy levels are still present here. Just a second. Just a second. Yeah. So it is still inside the conductor. It doesn't leave the conductor unless you apply very high energy, and that high energy is equivalent to the work function of that material. So if electrons get energy equal to the work function of that material, they will definitely leave the material. But in this case, they are not leaving. We assume that they are not leaving here, right? So that level after which it leaves the semiconductor or a material is called vacuum energy level. Okay. So that is called E vacuum. Okay. So this is called ECB or EC, and this is EV, that is valence band energy. Sorry, valence band energy here. Okay. So vacuum is the energy level after which it will leave the semiconductor. Yeah, anything else?
Sir, what would happen if we apply energy more than band gap in insulators?
If you apply energy more than band gap, so it is possible that it can show some signs of conduction, but it will not conduct properly, and that energy would be very large. In fact, you cannot generate that energy. If you are even able to generate that energy, maybe that insulator will even become even burn, so it may become carbon. So for example, wood, you keep on increasing energy or keep on increasing the heat energy, what we call as. So it will not conduct, or maybe you will see some signs of conduction, that is maybe it will become a little bit warm at the other end, but then eventually if you keep on increasing the heat, it will start burning and then it will become carbon. So insulators never conduct. Yeah, anything else? So in fact, we would be talking more about some details on this very soon. In fact, I have to start with a much lower level, because since this is your first introductory course, so I'll have to start at a more lower level. So I'll try to cover a few more basics. But yes, if you have any questions, doubts, please ask.
Sir,
Yeah, please.
Sir, above band gap, for every energy level, the electron will be a free electron, or again the band gap would be encountered.
Can you repeat your question?
Sir, means if we apply energy more than the band gap, the electron will always conduct, or again a band gap would be encountered.
It will when you apply energy more than band gap, so it leaves the valence band, right? So it was bonded at some energy level. In fact, you will find that atoms are bonded to form molecules, and how this bonding happens, it may be covalent bonding or sigma bonding or anything else. So for example, in the case of silicon, we say covalent bonding, so that means electron sharing. Okay, now when that covalent bond, so that breaks, and that covalent band energy is actually the band gap, Eg, right? So that is covalent band energy in the silicon is 1.1 eV, right? So electrons are bounded here in the valence band. I mean, the energy level, at this energy level, they are bounded to the electrons of other atoms. Now that bond when breaks, and that bond breaks at this much energy, that is 1.1 eV. So when that bond breaks, it moves from valence band to conduction band. Okay. So obviously that means if my valence band energy level was 8 eV and conduction band energy level is 13 eV, and if it is sitting now say at the bottom of this conduction band, right? Conduction band, it doesn't ends over here. It is, as I said, conduction band. For example, here in this case, conduction band. So conduction band doesn't ends over here. It ends at this E vacuum, right? So till E vacuum, we have energy levels in the conduction band, right? So that means if it is sitting at the bottom of the conduction band, so how much energy level it will have? It will have somewhere around 13 eV. Little bit up, it may be having more than 13 eV energy. Yeah, any other question? Was that your question?
Sir, I was asking something different. Sir, I was asking that when we make a EK diagram, we see that many band gaps are encountered. Sir, I was
Correct.
asking what is their meaning in contrast to this diagram what you
Actually,
made.
the EK diagram that you are talking about, so that is in many bands. You were saying that many bands were crossing, so that was in 3 dimension. Yeah? So K points that were taken was in 3 dimension, that is X, Y, Z. But this is a simplistic picture. Okay, this is not that complex. This is not in 3D. It's only showing you just one in one direction itself, right? And only one band, one EK band is being taken. So in EK, K is in 3D, that is X, Y, Z. So that is why you will see many bands crossing each other. But here the things are made more simple, and we are only considering one EK, that is only in one direction. Let us say X. So it is EKX. And in fact, this is not the band structure. So let us not confuse ourselves with the band structure and energy band, right? So this is energy band diagram, or maybe energy bands itself, okay? And this should not be related to the band structure. Band structure is different, right? So band structure, for example, if I say, let us say the band structure, let us consider one pointer here. So band structure, EK, right? So energy in the Y, and you have K points in the x-axis, right? Now if you take a very simplistic picture where you just see one band like this, okay, and the other band like this, okay, and you say that this is my valence band here, I mean anything which is lower than this, so that is called valence band energy, that is this inverted U, this is my conduction band, you say, and this is my this is my valence band, and this is, you say, is my conduction band. So this is a simplistic picture, okay? And Now this is the bottom of my conduction band, and here is my band gap. Right. So this is a simplistic picture which considers only, just one band. There may be millions of bands. Right. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so there may be millions. I mean, you will see that they are crossing each other. This is in just X, Kx, right? So if you have, let's say, K points in Z direction also, right? K point in X, K point in Y, and K point in Z direction also, right? So you will see that bands are crossing like this. Okay? All bands are maybe crossing like this. Many are there. Right? Many bands are crossing like this. So, but that is a very complex picture. So that is why we consider only one simplistic, model. And in fact, this band diagram or maybe band structure, that is EK diagram. So that should not be confused with this, energy band, right? So these are simply energy bands, and this was EK diagram, that is which tells us the band structure. Okay. Though the levels are same, I mean the bottom of the conduction band, so that represents to the same point, this point, which represents to this, and the top of the valence band, that represents to this in the energy band diagram, right? So this is energy band diagram, and this was EK diagram. This one was. Yeah, any other questions, please?
Okay. Yes.
I think we'll talk about these things in detail very soon. Yeah, if you have any other question, then maybe you can ask. And if you don't have any question, then maybe we can end the lecture. Yeah, so Kunal, I think I have answered this. What would happen if we apply energy more than band
Yes,
gap?
sir.
Okay, okay. Yeah, any other queries? Okay, no queries, I hope. So let us meet tomorrow again at the same time. Okay. So do you have any class tomorrow at maybe between 2:40 to 4:30?
Yes, sir. Drawing class.
Oh, drawing class. Okay. Well, I was thinking that 8:30 would be too early. So if you are interested, then maybe we can shift this class to some other time. But okay, anyhow, that's fine. No issues. So we'll meet tomorrow. Okay, at 8:30 morning.